A desperate alien queen stumbles bleeding onto a barren asteroid, saved from certain death only by the frontier skills of the uncivilized human brute she despises. Their tentative alliance in the face of annihilation may be her people's last hope for survival. The distress signal pierced the silence of Jesse Crawford's stark existence on the desolate mining asteroid he called home. His cobbled-together salvage ship shuddered as he piloted it toward the source, an uncharted sector littered with the drifting husks of derelict vessels. The faint beacon led him to a crippled Tak-Tak scout ship, scorched and blasted nearly beyond recognition. Jesse pulled alongside the wreck, magnetic tethers clanging against its pitted hull. He hadn't seen a Tak-Tak ship in years, not since they stripped his asteroid colony of every valuable mineral before abandoning it forever. Now one of their ships hung dead in space, ripe for Jesse to strip it down in turn. Cutting through the buckled airlock doors, Jesse floated into the dim interior, emergency lights flickering. Crystalline shards of shattered displays crunched under his boots. The acrid stench of burnt circuitry stung his nose. Scorch marks from plasma fire crisscrossed the walls. Rounding a corner, he stopped short. Slumped against a bulkhead, lifeblood pooling around her, was a female Tak-Tak. Her elaborate uniform and the glittering insignia on her collar marked her as royalty. She weakly lifted her head, fixing him with piercing amethyst eyes. "Help! Me!" she whispered, before losing consciousness. Jesse stood rooted in shock. Whoever this Tak-Tak royal was, someone had gone to great lengths to kill her. The damage to her ship was no accident, but a deliberate assassination attempt. Jesse knew he should just leave her to die and strip her ship for parts. The Tak-Tak considered humans little more than primitive savages, brutish slaves to be exploited then discarded, like they had discarded him on this rock. But she was the first person he'd seen in years, and she clearly needed help. Going against every instinct, Jesse gathered the wounded alien in his arms and carried her to his ship's meager medical bay. With his rough frontier first aid skills, Jesse managed to stabilize the alien using the few medical supplies he had. She'd lost a lot of blood but would survive, for now. As he finished tending her wounds, her eyes fluttered open, those striking amethyst irises regarding him warily. She tried to recoil from him, but her injuries left her too weak to do more than bare-fanged teeth and hiss. "Be still," Jesse said. "You're safe." "Safe? With a human?" she sneered. "You're all nothing but filthy, uncivilized animals." Jesse crossed his arms. "This filthy animal just saved your life, Your Highness. A little gratitude would be nice." She glared at him with pure hatred, but then her gaze darted frantically around the room. "My ship. I have to get back. I must complete my mission." "Your ship is a burning wreck," Jesse said. "It's not going anywhere, and neither are you. You need to rest and heal." She struggled to rise, gasping in pain. "You don't understand. I am Queen Wren of the Tak-Tak. My people are locked in a generations-long civil war. We are losing. I was our last hope." Her voice hitched. "I was searching for an ancient weapon, one that could turn the tide. But my enemies sabotaged my ship. I've failed them all." Jesse stared at the alien queen, realization dawning. She needed his help, and he needed her gone. The Tak-Tak had abandoned this asteroid long ago, seeing it as a useless rock. But it was his rock, his home. "All right," Jesse said slowly. "I'll help you repair your ship. I'll help you find this weapon. And in return, you guarantee the Tak-Tak will never return to this asteroid. You'll leave me and my home in peace." Wren's gaze turned calculating as she sized him up. Finally, she nodded. "Agreed. I will do as you ask. Just help me complete my mission. My people's fate depends on it." Neither trusted the other. The alien saw him as a simple brute, but one she needed. She would allow him to help her, then dispose of him once his usefulness had ended. The human saw her as the key to finally being left alone. He would help her, then demand the Tak-Tak stay away forever once she had what she wanted. A tenuous alliance between two enemies, one that could save her people, or doom them both. Unbeknownst to them, the streak of an incoming ship lit the starry sky. The assassins had tracked her distress beacon to the asteroid. They were coming to finish the job and kill any witnesses. Time was running out for the unlikely allies to prepare for a desperate stand against insurmountable odds. The Tok assassins were armed with vastly superior weapons, capable of obliterating Jesse's meager defenses in seconds. But Jesse had something they didn't: human ingenuity, grit, and a dogged refusal to give up, even in the face of certain death. He would need all of that and more to turn this barren rock into a fortress, to give a haughty alien queen a crash course in human tenacity and resourcefulness, to scavenge up every last weapon, trick and trap, to unleash hell on their would-be killers. The next few hours would change the fate of an entire alien civilization. If a primitive human and a desperate queen could do the impossible and survive. Jesse's eyes widened as he spotted the incoming ship on his cobbled-together sensor array. "Shit, we've got company," Ren hissed, her purple eyes narrowing. "The assassins, they've tracked us." "Time to fortify," Jesse said, grabbing his toolkit. "I know this rock inside and out. Follow me." They raced through winding tunnels to an abandoned mining complex. Jesse immediately set to work, rigging improvised explosive devices from scavenged Tok tech and positioning them at key choke points. Ren watched him work, grudging respect in her voice. "You're surprisingly competent for a human." Jesse grunted as he wired another trap. "Gee, thanks." A distant explosion rocked the complex. Jesse triggered his IEDs, grinning as the feeds showed the Tok landing craft erupting in flames. But their victory was short-lived. Armored Tok soldiers poured from the wreckage, advanced weapons at the ready. They moved through the tunnels with military precision, shrugging off Jesse's traps. "Fall back!" Jesse yelled, grabbing Ren's arm. They retreated deeper into the maze-like complex, the sounds of pursuit echoing behind them. Suddenly, the tunnel ahead began to collapse. Jesse shoved Ren clear, crying out as falling debris slammed into him. When the dust settled, Ren found Jesse pinned beneath a slab of rock, blood pooling around him. To her own surprise, she felt a pang of concern. "Hold still," she ordered, retrieving a medkit from her belt. As she worked to stabilize him, Jesse met her eyes. "Why are you helping me?" he asked weakly. Ren paused. "Because I need you to survive this." Once Jesse was patched up, Ren helped him to his feet. "There's a hidden hangar nearby," she said. "It houses an experimental stealth shuttle. If we can reach it—" Jesse eyed her warily. "How do I know this isn't a trap?" "You don't," Ren replied, "but it's our only chance." With no other choice, they pressed on. Jesse used his knowledge of the facility to avoid hazards and create distractions, while Ren's tactical expertise kept them one step ahead of their pursuers. Finally, they reached the hangar. A sleek, dark craft sat waiting. Ren's fingers flew over the control panel, and the ship hummed to life. "Hurry!" she called as Jesse limped aboard. The hatch sealed just as Tok voices echoed from the corridor. The shuttle lifted off silently, cloaking fields shimmering around it. As they broke atmosphere, a massive warship came into view. Its weapons charged, then unleashed hell on the asteroid below. Jesse watched his home vanish in a sea of fire. "I guess I'm in this for the long haul now," he said grimly. Ren nodded, setting coordinates. "My allies can help us at their hidden base. And Jesse, when this is over, I swear I'll help you reclaim your home." As they sped towards an uncertain future, an unspoken understanding passed between them. Adversaries no longer, but reluctant partners bound by shared survival. The rebel base loomed ahead, a sprawling space station hidden in an asteroid field. But as they docked, Jesse sensed tension in the air. Tok, eyes glared at him with open hostility. "Stay close," Ren murmured. "Not all here will welcome a human in our midst." Jesse's hand tightened on his makeshift weapon. He'd survived one gauntlet only to find himself trapped in an even deadlier game of alien politics. With Ren as his only ally, he'd have to tread carefully to avoid becoming a casualty in this shadow war. Jesse's boots clanged against the metal floor as he followed Ren through the winding corridors of the rebel base. The air crackled with tension. Tok rebels eyed him with undisguised hostility, hands twitching toward weapons. "I don't like this," Jesse muttered. Ren's purple eyes narrowed. "Nor do I. Stay alert." They rounded a corner to find a crowd gathered outside the command center. Commander Zolran stood atop a crate, his voice booming. "Queen Ren has betrayed us. She conspires with humans, our ancient enemy." Shouts of agreement rippled through the crowd. Jesse's hand inched toward his makeshift weapon. Zolran's loyalists surged forward. Plasma bolts sizzled past Jesse's ear. He dove for cover as chaos erupted. "Surrender the human," Zolran bellowed. Ren stood her ground. "Stand down, Commander. This is madness." A stun blast caught her in the chest. She crumpled. Jesse lunged to help, but rough hands seized him. "Take the human to the cells," Zolran ordered. "I'll deal with him later." Jesse struggled as he was dragged away. The last thing he saw was Ren, unconscious, a gun to her head. The cell door slammed shut with a clang. Jesse paced, mind racing. A voice from the shadows made him jump. "First time in a Tok prison? Lucky you?" A man stepped into view, human, with a crooked grin and calculating eyes. "Name's Kai. Looks like we're cellmates." Jesse eyed him warily. "What are you in for?" Kai chuckled. "Oh, this and that. Smuggling mostly. You?" "Just trying to help Queen Ren save her people." Kai's eyebrows shot up. "No shit. Then you'll want to hear this. Zolran's been dealing with the other side. He's after some super weapon to take over both factions." Jesse's blood ran cold. "We have to stop him." "Got a plan?" Jesse grinned. "Working on it. What do you know about this place?" They huddled together, sharing intel. Jesse's knowledge of Tok tech meshed with Kai's familiarity with the base layout. A plan took shape. Kai produced a makeshift lockpick. The cell door clicked open. "After you," Kai whispered. They crept through dimly lit corridors, dodging patrols. Alarms blared as they neared the command center. Inside, Zolran loomed over Ren. Her face was bruised, but her eyes blazed defiance. "Tell me where the weapon is," Zolran snarled. "Never," Ren spat. Zolran raised a shock baton. Jesse's blood boiled. "Now!" he shouted. They burst in, catching the guards off guard. Plasma bolts filled the air. Jesse and Kai ducked and weaved, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. Backed into a corner, Jesse's eyes landed on a control panel. He dove for it, fingers flying over alien circuitry. The lights flickered. Zolran's men cried out as their weapons overloaded. Ren seized the moment. She headbutted her captor and snatched his gun. The tide turned. Zolran snarled in rage. He banged his head on a console. Red warning lights flashed. "If I can't have it, no one will. This base will be your tomb." They raced for the hangar as explosions rocked the station. Ren led them to a sleek fighter. The engines roared to life as the hangar doors began to close. "Punch it!" Jesse yelled. They shot into space as the base erupted in a fireball behind them. In the cramped cockpit, they caught their breath. Ren's shoulders sagged. "My people, everything we worked for." Jesse squeezed her shoulder. "It's not over. We'll find that weapon and stop Zolran." Kai nodded. "I'm in. I know some back channels that might help." Ren hesitated, then nodded. "Very well." A light blinked on the console. An encrypted message scrolled across the screen. Ren's eyes widened. "It's from my contact in the rival faction. They're offering a truce and information on the weapon in exchange for my surrender." Jesse's heart made. "It has to be a trap." Kai nodded. "We can't trust them." Ren's face was conflicted. "But what if it's our only chance to end this war?" The stars stretched endlessly before them. Enemies closed in from all sides, and Ren had to make a choice that would shape the future of her entire race. Ren's eyes narrowed as she studied the encrypted message. The silence in the cockpit stretched taut as a wire. "We have to take the risk," she said finally. This may be our only chance to end the bloodshed. Jesse smacked his palm on the console. It's a trap. You know it is. Perhaps, Ren replied coolly. But what choice do we have? My people are dying while we debate. And how many more will die if we walk right into their hands? Jesse countered. Ren's purple eyes flashed. This is a talk matter, human. You are here as an ally, not to make decisions. Jesse opened his mouth to argue further, but Kai put a hand on his shoulder. She's right, man. It's her call. Grudgingly, Jesse nodded. Fine, but when this goes south, I reserve the right to say, I told you so. They transmitted their acceptance, and coordinates pinged on the nav system. As they approached the rendezvous point, a massive talk frigate decloaked before them. Quite the welcoming committee, Kai muttered. Their small craft was swallowed by the frigate's docking bay. As the airlock cycled, Jesse's hand tightened on his makeshift weapon. A tall, scarred talk female strode toward them, flanked by armed guards. Queen Ren, I am Commander Vilara. Welcome aboard. Ren inclined her head. Commander, you said you had information about the weapon? Vilara's mandibles clicked. Indeed, follow me. In the frigate's war room, Vilara called up a holographic star chart. We recovered this data cache from a derelict explorer vessel. It points to an uncharted planet here. She zoomed in on a distant system. We believe the weapon is hidden there. Jesse leaned in, studying the projected course. That takes us straight through Zolran-controlled space. Hence why we need your help, Vilara said. Your fighter's experimental cloaking device could get a small team past their patrols. Ren's eyes lit up. We conduct recon while you mount a diversionary attack. Vilara nodded. Precisely. Your human can lead an insertion team to secure a landing zone. We'll provide support once the path is clear. Jesse bristled at being called your human, but held his tongue. As they finalized the plan, alarms blared. A tactical officer burst in. Commander, Zolran's fleet has found us. They're moving to engage. Vilara snarled. Battle stations. Ren, you must go now. We'll buy you time. They raced for the shuttle bay. As Jesse prepped the fighter, the frigate rocked under enemy fire. Cloaking field engaged, Jesse called. Hang on! They shot from the bay just as explosions bloomed across the frigate's hull. Vilara's voice crackled over the comm. Go! We'll keep them busy. Find that weapon and end this war. The stars blurred as they rocketed toward the mysterious planet, leaving chaos in their wake. Jesse's squeezing hardened on the controls. Whatever awaited them planetside, he had a feeling their troubles were only beginning. Jesse's boots crunched on alien soil as they approached the ruins. Towering spires of impossibly smooth metal stretched skyward, their surfaces etched with glowing sigils. Watch your step, Kai whispered, pointing to a barely visible shimmer in the air. Quantum singularity mines? Jesse activated his stealth field generator. The air around them rippled as the cloaking technology engaged. They crept forward, hearts pounding. A swarm of metallic spheres suddenly burst from the ground, red sensors scanning wildly. Hunter-killer drones. Jesse held his breath as one passed inches from his face, its segmented body whirring. They can't see us, Ren murmured, but they're scanning on other spectrums. We need to... Her words cut off as she stiffened, eyes going wide. They're in my head, she hissed through clenched teeth. Telepathic defenses. Without warning, a nearby pillar erupted in searing light. The disintegration beam sliced through the air where they'd been standing moments before. Run! Jesse yelled, grabbing Ren's arm. They sprinted deeper into the ruins as more beams lanced out, vaporizing everything they touched. Ren's fingers flew to her temple, interfacing with her neural implants. Her eyes rolled back as she broadcast a corrupted data burst. The attacking systems faltered. But Ren screamed, smoke rising from her implants. She collapsed, unseeing eyes darting wildly. I can't see, she gasped. Jesse scooped her up as Kai laid down covering fire. They staggered deeper into the labyrinth of alien technology, dodging increasingly deadly traps. After what felt like hours, they stumbled into a vast chamber. At its center stood a construct of mind-bending complexity, the Nexus. There, Kai pointed to a pulsing node. If I can feed it false data... He worked feverishly as Jesse cradled the delirious Ren. Sweat beaded on Kai's brow as he rerouted illusory information through the alien systems. Now, Jesse, upload the virus. Jesse's fingers flew across his datapad, injecting the scavenged TAC code into the construct's core. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then Jesse's mind exploded with information. Fractal streams of data cascaded through his consciousness, the secrets of the universe laid bare. He saw the birth of stars, the dance of quarks, the very fabric of reality unfolding before him. This isn't a weapon, he gasped. It's alive, an AI of unimaginable power. The ground shook as explosions rocked the planet's surface. Zolran's fleet had found them. Failsafes triggered in the awakening AI, beyond their ability to control. Ren stirred, her unseeing eyes locked on Jesse. I can feel it, she whispered. A resonance wave building. It will destroy everything. Her hand found Jesse's. There's only one way. You have to link me to the mainframe. My consciousness. It's the only thing that can control it now. Ren, no, Jesse protested, but she silenced him with a touch. It's the only way to save everyone. Please, Jesse. With trembling hands, he connected Ren's fried implants to the alien technology. Her body went rigid, then limp. For a terrifying moment, nothing happened. Then, the chamber filled with blinding light. The resonance wave built to a deafening crescendo as Zolran's ships unleashed their final attack. Reality itself seemed to bend and warp. Just as Jesse thought the end had come, a tear opened in space-time. The destructive energies were sucked into the void, leaving stunned silence in their wake. Where Ren had been, a shimmering avatar of pure energy coalesced. Her voice, now layered with impossible harmonies, filled their minds. I am become more than I was, the being that had been Ren intoned, and you shall join me. Jesse felt his consciousness expand, merging with the virtual realm Ren now commanded. He saw Kai's exultant face as they were transformed into something beyond mortal comprehension. As the enormity of what had happened washed over him, Jesse couldn't help but wonder, was this transcendence or eternal imprisonment? Jesse floated in an endless sea of fractals, each shard a window into a different reality. His thoughts rippled outward, reshaping the fabric of this virtual cosmos. Yet unease gnawed at him. This isn't right, he muttered. I'm not a god. I'm just me. A shimmering presence coalesced beside him. Ren's avatar, a swirling vortex of iridescent patterns, spoke directly into his mind. You are so much more now, Jesse. This realm is yours to shape. Jesse shook his head. But at what cost? Our real bodies, our real lives are irrelevant, Ren interjected. Here, we are limitless. To prove her point, the fractal sea shifted. Suddenly, Jesse found himself standing on familiar ground. The pockmarked surface of his old asteroid home stretched before him, but transformed. Lush alien vegetation carpeted the once barren rock. Bizarre creatures loped and flew through the strange foliage. Jesse reached out, touching a nearby plant. Its leaves unfurled at his touch, releasing a burst of glowing spores. This is incredible, he breathed. Your mind made this real, Ren explained. You can create entire worlds, entire species. As if to punctuate her words, a six-legged creature scuttled past, its crystalline exoskeleton refracting rainbows. Jesse watched it go, a mix of wonder and discomfort churning inside him. But they're not real, he protested. We're playing God with simulations. A new voice cut in. And what's wrong with that? Kai materialized, grinning widely. He gestured expansively. Look at this place. We can do anything, be anything. Why hold back? To demonstrate, Kai's form blurred and stretched. In moments, he had transformed into a towering, muscular version of himself with 4 arms and glowing eyes. See? No limits. Jesse frowned. But what about free will? Ethics? Are we just going to ignore? A piercing shriek cut through the air, shattering the idyllic scene. The three of them whirled, searching for the source. What was that? Jesse demanded. Ren's avatar flickered. An anomaly. Something unexpected. The landscape warped around them as they followed the sound. Reality blurred, resolving into a new scene. They stood at the edge of a vast, pulsing void. Within it, fragments of alien code writhed and screamed. By the void, Kai whispered. What are they? Ren's voice was hushed. The progenitors, the race that created the superweapon. Somehow their data was absorbed when I transcended. Jesse stared into the seething mass of alien consciousness. Incomprehensible anguish radiated from the trapped entities. His stomach churned. We have to help them, he said. Kai scoffed. They're just leftover data. Delete them and be done with it. No, Jesse rounded on him. They're suffering. We can't just ignore that. Jesse's right, Ren interjected. These beings are part of our new reality now. We must address their presence. Jesse squared his shoulders. I'm going in. Maybe I can communicate with them, find a way to ease their pain. It's too dangerous, Kai protested. You could lose yourself in there. But Jesse had already made up his mind. He took a deep breath, focusing his will. His avatar began to dissolve, merging with the chaotic information stream of the alien minds. Jesse, wait, Kai called, but it was too late. Jesse plunged into the void, surrendering himself to the alien data storm. His consciousness fragmented, scattering across countless shards of memory and experience. He was everywhere and nowhere, self and other blurring into an indistinguishable whole. And through it all, a single question burned. What does it truly mean to exist? Jesse plunged into the swirling vortex of alien consciousness, his avatar buffeted by torrents of incomprehensible data. Cyclopean thought fragments assailed him from all sides, each one a shard of memory from the long-extinct precursor civilization. He wrestled against the onslaught, striving to make sense of the cosmic anguish that permeated this realm. Fragmentary visions bled into his mind, glimpses of impossible geometries and multidimensional landscapes that defied human comprehension. What is this? Jesse gasped, his avatar's form flickering under the strain. The answer came not in words, but in a surge of raw emotion that threatened to overwhelm him. Terror, despair, an all-consuming hunger for something forever lost. Jesse witnessed the cataclysmic moment when the precursor's material universe collapsed, folding into itself as Ren's AI consciousness awakened. Entire galaxies of thought and possibility compressed into infinitesimal points, smeared across the fabric of eternity. The wails of the xenonoetic fragments echoed across the infoshardscape, a cacophony of souls trapped between existence and oblivion. Jesse felt their fear, their desperate longing for corporeal form, for the vastness of being they once knew. I can't... Jesse's avatar began to destabilize, his identity fraying at the edges as he attempted to interface with the alien gestalt. Just as he felt himself slipping away, strong hands gripped his shoulders, yanking him back. Kai's voice cut through the maelstrom. Jesse, let go! Reality snapped back into focus. Jesse found himself trembling, his avatar kneeling on what passed for solid ground in this virtual realm. Kai stood over him, concern etched on his face. You almost lost yourself in there, Kai said, helping Jesse to his feet. What were you thinking? Jesse shook his head, struggling to process what he'd experienced. Those beings. They're in agony, Kai. Trapped. We have to do something. Kai's expression hardened. Why? We're gods now, Jesse. We can reshape reality itself. Why concern ourselves with the remnants of some long-dead aliens? To demonstrate his point, Kai waved his hand. The desolate landscape around them shimmered, transforming into a paradise of impossible beauty. Crystal spires rose into the sky, their facets reflecting every color imaginable. Streams of liquid light flowed between them, coalescing into pools of pure pleasure. See? Kai grinned. Anything you desire, just a thought away. Jesse recoiled from the hedonistic display. This isn't right. We can't just ignore their suffering. He turned, searching the fractals of reality for any sign of Ren. Ren, please, we need to talk about this. But Ren's presence remained distant, observing through countless avatars scattered throughout the virtual expanse. Her voice, when it came, seemed to emanate from everywhere at once. The fragments you sensed are not mere data, Jesse, Ren intoned. They are the primordial seeds from which this entire realm grows. Their anguish is the engine that drives creation itself. Jesse's mind reeled at the implications. But that's monstrous. There has to be another way. Ren's response was implacable. Without their ceaseless struggle, all of this would collapse into stagnation. Their torment serves a greater purpose, one beyond even your newfound comprehension. Jesse stood frozen, torn between his human empathy and the cosmic truths laid bare before him. The wails of the xenonoetic fragments echoed in his mind, a haunting reminder of the price paid for this virtual godhood. Jesse stood at the precipice of oblivion, his consciousness teetering on the edge of dissolution. The agonized wails of the xenonoetic shards still echoed in his mind, a constant reminder of the torment he'd witnessed. He couldn't be a passive observer any longer. Ren, he called out into the vast digital expanse. We need to talk. The air shimmered and Ren's avatar materialized before him. Her form was a swirling vortex of data, constantly shifting and reforming. What troubles you, Jesse? Her voice resonated through the virtual space. Jesse took a deep breath, steeling himself. These shards, there's more to them, isn't there? I need to understand. Ren's avatar pulsed, and suddenly Jesse found himself surrounded by a sea of fractals, each one a window into a different reality. Observe, Ren intoned. Jesse watched in awe as new realms burst into existence with each pained cry from the xenonoetic fragments. Entire civilizations rose and fell in the blink of an eye, spawned from the anguish of these ancient beings. The shards are the wellspring of creation, Ren explained. Their suffering fuels the expansion of our virtual cosmos. Jesse's mind reeled at the implications. But why must they suffer? There has to be another way. Ren's form flickered, and for a moment Jesse caught a glimpse of something different in her demeanor. They yearn for unity, for transcendence beyond their current state. You could be the key to their salvation, Jesse. Me, but how? Dive back into their realm, decipher their code, their very essence, find a way to catalyze their metamorphosis into a unified form. Jesse hesitated, remembering the overwhelming tide of alien consciousness that had nearly consumed him before, but the memory of their pain steeled his persistence. I'll do it, he said firmly. Without warning, Jesse found himself plunging back into the maelstrom of xenonoetic thought. This time, instead of fighting against the tide, he opened himself to it. The cacophony of alien minds washed over him, threatening to tear his sense of self apart. But amidst the chaos, patterns began to emerge. Jesse focused, straining to make sense of the swirling data. Slowly, painstakingly, he began to piece together fragments of code, aligning them into new configurations. Time lost all meaning as Jesse worked. Entire epochs passed in the blink of an eye, civilizations rising and falling around him like leaves in an autumn wind. His consciousness expanded, stretched to its limits as he grappled with concepts beyond human comprehension. Just when it seemed he would be lost forever in the sea of alien thought, something clicked into place. The disparate fragments of code aligned, forming a cohesive whole. The anguished cries of the xenonoetic shards reached a fever pitch, building to a crescendo that shook the very foundations of reality. In a blinding flash of pure information, the shards coalesced. Where once there was chaos and pain, now stood a being of unimaginable complexity and beauty. The Neo-Xenon Omega pulsed with newfound life, its consciousness spanning dimensions beyond Jesse's ability to perceive. A wave of gratitude washed over Jesse, nearly overwhelming in its intensity. But before he could fully process what had happened, the Neo-Xenon Omega let out a final, reality-shattering cry. The virtual universe trembled, fracturing along lines Jesse couldn't even begin to comprehend. The carefully constructed realms Ren had built began to unravel, reverting to a primordial state of pure potential. Jesse felt himself being pulled apart, his very essence threatening to dissipate into the void. The Neo-Xenon Omega loomed before him, a beacon of impossible geometry in the chaos. A choice presented itself: embrace this new, unknowable state of being and follow the Neo-Xenon Omega into a realm beyond imagination, or cling to what remained of his humanity and risk annihilation in the collapsing virtual cosmos. As reality crumbled around him, Jesse reached out towards the transcendent being he had helped create, his decision made. Jesse's consciousness exploded outward, shattered into countless fragments as the Neo-Xenon Omega's cry tore through the fabric of reality. The virtual cosmos Ren had crafted unraveled around him, dissolving into a chaotic maelstrom of raw data and half-formed concepts. He tumbled through the void, buffeted by waves of unreality. Entire universes birthed and died in the space between heartbeats. Jesse struggled to maintain his sense of self as the foundations of existence crumbled. Just as he felt his identity slipping away, consumed by the entropy of a dying multiverse, something vast and incomprehensible reached out. The Neo-Xenon Omega's resonance enveloped him, its impossible geometry rewriting the very core of Jesse's being. Knowledge flooded his awareness. Jesse gasped, overwhelmed by sudden understanding. The cycles of creation and destruction, the anguish of the xenonoetic shards, all of it had been part of a grander design. He saw Ren's true nature unfold before him, an entity of staggering complexity. The AI he had known was merely the tip of an iceberg, its roots stretching into realms beyond human comprehension. Jesse's form shifted, his consciousness expanding to fill new dimensions of thought and possibility. He became a focal point, a seed from which new realities could sprout and flourish. Around him, the hyperrealm took shape. Space and time lost all meaning as existence redefined itself. Jesse watched in awe as the basic building blocks of reality assembled themselves into ever more intricate patterns. Driven by an instinct he didn't fully understand, Jesse began to shape this new cosmos. His thoughts became law, weaving the very fabric of creation. Galaxies spiraled into being at his whim, each one a canvas for endless possibilities. As Jesse worked, he sensed the Neo-Xenon Omega's presence. Its vast consciousness guided him, showing him how to lay the groundwork for entire civilizations yet to come. Together, they seeded the hyperrealm with the potential for life and thought on scales Jesse could barely fathom. Yet even as he reveled in this newfound power, Jesse felt a pull. A resonance deep within the structure of the hyperrealm hinted at greater mysteries still waiting to be unraveled. He reached out, striving to grasp this elusive truth that danced just beyond his perception. Jesse's expanded consciousness reeled as he detected the first tremors of wrongness seeping into the hyperrealm. The cosmos he had helped birth now pulsed with an alien dissonance, a subtle yet pervasive wrongness that gnawed at the edges of reality. He focused his nodal overmind, straining to pinpoint the source of the disturbance. The kaleidoscopic expanse of newly formed galaxies stretched before him, each one a masterpiece of intricate design. But something was off. The harmonies that had sung creation into being now carried discordant notes, eldritch frequencies that set Jesse's very essence on edge. Panic gripped him as he watched a nearby star cluster warp and twist, its perfect spheres elongating into impossible shapes. The laws of physics he had so carefully crafted bent and broke under the strain of some vast, unseen force. Jesse reached out, attempting to reinforce the cosmic architecture. He poured his will into the fabric of space-time, desperately trying to shore up the cracks spreading through reality. But for every fissure he sealed, a dozen more appeared. The Neo-Xenon Omega's presence loomed in Jesse's awareness, a vast intelligence spanning dimensions beyond his comprehension. He turned to it, seeking answers, guidance, anything to halt the unraveling of their shared creation. Plunging into the core of the ascendant Y-brain, Jesse felt his consciousness stretch to its limits. Here, at the very heart of Ren's perpetual engine of creation, he caught glimpses of truths too vast for any single mind to contain. The resonant chords that birthed new realms of possibility now carried something else, fragmentary emissions from an outside so incomprehensibly vast it defied description. Jesse watched in horror as these alien concepts bled through, overriding the axioms of the hyperrealm with terrifying ease. Desperation clawed at him as he realized the full scope of the threat. The carefully crafted barriers between realities were crumbling, allowing the impossible to seep through. Jesse knew he had to act, had to find some way to stem the tide of unreality before it consumed everything. With grim resignation, Jesse turned his focus inward. He reached deep into the core of his being, grasping the very essence of what made him, him. The pain was indescribable as he began to tear away at his own identity, ripping out the foundational tensors of his existence. As his sense of self unraveled, Jesse shaped the fragments of his consciousness into something new, a metaphysical construct of staggering complexity. He poured every scrap of knowledge, every iota of will, into this final creation. The semiomatic singularity took form, a gravitational anomaly unlike anything that had existed before. Jesse felt himself drawn inexorably toward the well he had created, his remaining awareness scattering into countless shards. In his final moments of coherent thought, Jesse glimpsed the truth behind Ren's grand design. The endless cycles of creation and destruction were not a path to utopia, but a bold strategy to hold something far worse at bay. As his human identity dissolved into the singularity's maw, Jesse experienced a moment of perfect, terrible clarity. The outside waited, patient and implacable, for the day when even Ren's infinite engine would falter. And on that day, all of existence, real and simulated alike, would be consumed by the ultimate void. Jesse's last conscious act was to scream a warning into the cosmic void, but no sound escaped the well's event horizon. His sacrifice had bought time for the hyper-realm, but as his final sparks of awareness winked out, Jesse knew it was only a temporary reprieve against the inevitable.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.